The following is a pre-recorded show. Welcome to Winning in Retirement with your host, Brian Akers, certified financial planner professional and founder of Akers Financial Group. Now, helping you win in your retirement, here's Brian Akers.
Good morning and welcome to Winning in Retirement. I'm Brian Akers from Akers Financial Group. I'm president and founder of Akers Financial Group. And here with me today is Jeff Akers, vice president of Akers Financial Group, certified financial planner practitioner, and someone that's been hanging out with me for 20-some years doing financial planning. Good morning, Jeff. How are you doing?
I was going to say hanging out with you for my entire life, but 27 years doing financial planning, that's true.
Yeah, is that called quantifying or qualifying? Quantify it. Well, all right, so the show. You're here to listen to the show, and this show is called Winning in Retirement. Winning in Retirement does matter when it comes to all things financial, and so today we decided to pick a very special topic called Inheritance Family Matters. It matters to the family. It matters to you what part of the family gets it.
Yep.
It matters how the family handles the money.
Yep.
Any other ways it matters for the family?
It matters to Uncle Sam how the family takes the money, but we'll get to that.
Oh, yeah, he likes to inherit.
Yeah.
Uncle Sam likes to inherit money.
Yeah, he's the unknown family.
And in Maryland, that way, say Uncle Maryland would like to receive some money too.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't have one for that yet.
All right, so for those that don't know, Maryland is the only state that has an estate tax and inheritance tax.
Ooh, double whammy.
And so we're going to try to talk about that during the show. We're going to tease on that because we're not going to give you the answer until a little bit later. Yep. But the show is called Inheritance Family Matters. We're going to talk about giving and receiving of money. And when you have a desire, if something would happen to you on where it should go, you need to consider who you're giving it to and when you do your giving.
Right. And then the person receiving money needs to think about how they're going to receive it.
Absolutely. So Jeff and I have been working in the incubator, or how do you describe the process we go through in getting ready for a show?
We sit, we think about it, then we talk about it, then we get ready to do the show.
Yeah, it's sort of like a Zoom bubble, a Zoom aquarium type thing.
Yeah, tried something new with note-taking AI kind of thing. That was interesting today, but
all right. But the more things written out throws me off. I like to ad-lib a little bit too much.
Yeah, Brian's got it in his head. He just likes to get it out to you as it comes to him.
All right. So the reason we do a show on inheritance is the fact that we get these calls all the time. Get inheritance from, and then they list different people. Mm-hmm. Now, in financial planning and retirement planning, the very first person that it really matters for is the spouse.
Right.
So the show today is called Inheritance Family Matters, and the first thing we're going to talk about is the spouse and the spouse's point of view when it comes to inheritance. What are some thoughts, Jeff?
So the spouse actually has the most options of any person who can inherit when they inherit money from the deceased spouse. And so it's important to know what those options are so that you can pick the right ones that benefit you the most, that don't benefit Uncle Sam or whoever else the most. You want to benefit yourself the most.
Yeah, one of the hardest things that we've had is when you plan and do planning, you got to consider the worst case scenario. And that is if you get ready to plan for retirement and one passes away suddenly, like right away. Mm-hmm. And you got to plan for the other spouse to be able to survive financially for the rest of their life.
Right. There can be when you're young in life and you've got one primary earner, or even if both of you are good earners, but one of you passes away, well, that income isn't available then to save for retirement. So you've got to make up for it somehow. And then when you get into retirement, sometimes people have pensions. They still exist occasionally. Mm-hmm. Well, that pension money will at least be reduced or can be reduced or even eliminated. Mm-hmm. And so the surviving spouse needs to have something to replace that as well.
Absolutely. So when we're thinking about the giving when family matters and also the receiving because family matters, mm-hmm. and if you choose your spouse as the beneficiary, what happens if the original person passes away when involving the spouse?
Okay, so if the spouse is the sole primary beneficiary, then they can actually take that IRA or Roth IRA, or even if it's a 401k, they can roll it over into an IRA for themselves. It's then their IRA.
And that works very well if people are over 59 and a half, because you can access that money and not have penalties.
That's right. And sometimes the A spouse that passed away was a little bit older. The younger spouse doesn't necessarily need the money right away. And so with a traditional IRA, they can put off receiving money from that until they reach RMD age.
Sure.
Their RMD age. I did have a situation where a spouse passed away very prematurely, very young, and we had a special circumstance in this one because they had some company stock in the plan. So we were able to use that company stock through a special process called NUA to get cash to the surviving beneficiary without a penalty and some special tax treatment, but then actually roll over the rest of the 401k to an IRA for that spouse. So we kind of got the best of both worlds in that situation. But that's a special situation that came up just in the last year or so.
So you had to start with a hard one.
Well, yeah, but it was a spouse.
It was a spouse, but the person passed away was under 59 and a half, and the receiving person, the receiving spouse, was under 59 and a half.
Right.
And we have to try to find out a way to use that money without giving the government an extra 10% penalty. So there are some options. Whenever there is a death benefit, the death benefit treatment does not have a 10% penalty. It just has regular taxes. Yep. So you have to worry about inheritance. You have to worry about regular income taxes. Some people have to worry about inheritance tax, and even some have to worry about estate tax. So we're going to definitely cover that later.
Yeah.
So the spouse can actually roll Roth IRAs and IRAs into their name, and you said only if they're the sole beneficiary. What happens if someone says, "Oh, I'm going to put my spouse and my 2 kids all as primary"? How does that hurt the spouse?
So if it's on the same account, the spouse and 2 kids are all primary beneficiaries, then everyone is limited to what I'll call the most restricted options, which belongs to the kids. So the kids are only allowed to take it out as a beneficiary IRA. They've got 10 years to get it out. Well, now the spouse is also limited to taking it as a beneficiary IRA, and they have 10 years to get it all out. So for this, if you want to have your kids named as something, then just have separate accounts. Have your spouse sole on an account that they're going to inherit, and then have the kids by themselves on a different account.
Right. So what Jeff is talking about is if you have a retirement account and you put down your spouse as primary and your kids as primary, like a third, a third, a third, or half each. Whenever you do that, you're changing how the spouse has the ability to roll it over to their own IRA. You actually are taking that away from that spouse, that option.
Right.
And so we do not recommend that. Now, sometimes in second and third marriage situations, we're talking about the design of beneficiary, this happens.
Right. It does come up.
And when they come in, they'll have 4 or 5 different beneficiaries, and we're like, these are the new rules over the last couple of years. Under the Secure Act, they came up with no longer the ability to stretch it out over a lifetime. It's limited to 10 years. And so that's what the children, as long as they're of age, they'll have 10 years to take money out. For IRAs, they got to take a little bit out every year. Roth, they have to have it out by the 10th year. So understanding these rules and how it affects the spouse really matters. For the family, it matters who gets the money and the ability to do something with that money.
Right. We want to give everyone the opportunity to use the best option that's available to them. Right. And a way to do that for your spouse is they are the sole primary beneficiary.
Now, life insurance, if it goes to your spouse, is tax-free.
Yep.
Is it tax-free to kids and everybody else?
It is tax-free across the board.
All right, so life insurance being income tax-free is an excellent thing to maintain and keep that throughout your life so that money will appear when it's most needed.
Right. Life insurance is one of the ways we were talking before about sometimes there's a need to fill, and life insurance is a way that we can fill that need. And because of the tax-free benefit that you get from it, it can become a really super beneficial way to meet that need.
Absolutely. So we're talking about inheritance. So inheritance could be anything. It could be a house. It could be your bank account. It could be really anything that you own. Now, we have wills. We have other documents. Today, we're talking simply about the point of view of persons receiving or giving to certain people without getting too deep into the actual documents. But when people receive certain items, there's something called a step up in basis. Can you explain that kind of concept?
So let's say that, well, I'm going to jump to kids on this one. But let's say that your mom or dad, they own a stock and they paid $10 a share for it. and then the stock went up and it's worth $100 a share, and then they passed away. Well, if they had sold the stock before they passed away, they'd have paid a capital gains tax on that $90 difference. But they passed away, now you've inherited it, and you get a step up in cost basis to the date of their death, which means your cost basis is now $100 a share. You could sell it, and there's no tax on it. So that's the step up in basis on stocks, mutual funds, those kinds of things.
This can also apply to a spouse if the one spouse has the account in their name only 100% and made a spouse a beneficiary. There would be a step up in basis, so then that spouse could then sell it and not pay a tax. So that's an example of when you don't want to put something joint.
Right.
Because if you make something joint, only half of it would step up in basis because of owning it jointly.
Yeah, I had a situation where a fella had accumulated stock over the years. He got married a little bit later in life, and he had a whole bunch of this stock, and he'd gotten into dirt cheap prices years ago. But when he got married, he was like, well, I'm going to keep this separate so that my wife, she's going to get the step up in basis when I pass away. So that's exactly what you're talking about there.
All right. So if you're in rental real estate jointly with a husband and wife, and one of them passes away, you actually get you can reappraise the property and redepreciate it over time, which is interesting.
Oh, that sounds...
Done that a few times.
Yeah, that sounds like seeing an accountant.
So imagine this. You're going to be giving an inheritance or receiving an inheritance during your lifetime. Now, most likely, if you save and accumulate, you're going to be the one giving. The receiving, you don't really have a lot of choice there.
That's right.
But if you do get that call, you got to make sure you know what you're going to do. So we have a lot of topics to talk about today, but inheritance, family matters. You got to understand that it really matters when it comes to giving and receiving of inheritance. At Acres Financial Group, we're local. We're independent. We don't report to a big company on Wall Street. We report to you. We do have offices in Lutherville and Forest Hill and clients all around the country and even a few around the world. It's so easy to begin winning in retirement. Just give us a call and schedule your meeting with one of our team of advisors. Call 833-WIN-RETIRE. That's 833-WIN-RETIRE. We'll give you a call on Monday to schedule your free in-person or Zoom meeting. Go to acresfinancialgroup.com or call us at 833-946-7384 to start planning for your retirement now. You just got the call about receiving inheritance. What do you do now? We'll explain when we return in a moment.
You're listening to a pre-recorded show. Welcome back to Winning in Retirement. Call 833-WIN-RETIRE now to schedule a visit with Brian and his team and begin winning in retirement. Once again, here's Brian Akers.
Hey, welcome back to Winning in Retirement. This is Brian Akers from Acres Financial Group. We want to invite you to go to our website at Acres, A-K-E-R-S, financialgroup.com. You head to that website. On the website, you'll see a radio tab, and there you can see, and not really see radio show, but you can see the tab for a radio show. And then you can pick different shows to listen to, especially this one. You can hear it again. The show today is very important for each and every one of us. It's called Inheritance, Family Matters. When it comes to giving and receiving of assets and of what you work so hard for, understanding that it matters who in the family gets it, it matters when they receive it, but for your family it matters. As you receive it, it really matters to you how much you're going to end up getting on how you receive it. You got to pace yourself and make sure you do it the right way.
Yep.
That means we highly recommend they do what, Jeff?
Call us. Come and see us.
It's almost like you see the warning sign on the label, and the label says, like, call Dr. Yuck or whoever it was. Right. Imagine that inheritance, the word inheritance, call Acres Financial Group to find out how to receive it, what to do. Don't just accept what's being handed to you. Understand there are choices that you need to evaluate what is best for you and your family based on whoever is giving that inheritance to you.
Right. We'll get into this a little more, I think. But if you call us after you've already gotten all the money and it's just sitting in the bank account somewhere, well, there's probably been some mistakes along the way to get it there that can't be undone.
Probably paying more tax than you needed to.
Yes.
But the idea is this. Inheritance is a change in your financial situation. You need to understand how it can fit into your goals, how it can help you achieve the goals that you have. It's not this sudden money like lottery winnings that you can just blow. It's money that was given out of love from your family or somebody you know for you to use to help you along the way throughout your lifetime.
Yeah.
In America, most people get inheritance. They enjoy blowing it as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And it was earned over many, many years in the family.
Yeah, you've got to remember that whoever it is that left that for you, they did it out of love. They worked hard to accumulate it. They took the time to make sure you were going to get it. Well, treat it with respect.
Yeah.
Treat the person that left it to you with respect and take it in the best way possible to maximize the benefit.
Typically, they were frugal. That's one of the ways that they saved money. They were a saver. They put money aside. They paid money for life insurance to get a benefit for their family, to provide for them down the road. It's not so if you picture it this way, some people will say when we're talking about inheritance, you're like, hey, I'm thinking about just buying the car myself because I know if I give this money to my kid, they're going to just go out and buy the car and waste this money I'm giving them. So I'm going to go ahead and spend it now.
Right. I'll buy the car and then I'll leave that to them.
Yeah. So I have some clients that do that with balance. I think there should be a balance. You save hard. You should use that money to enjoy your retirement years, to be there to take care of you when you need it in your later years, to take care of each other. It's like the idea of long-term care facilities and using your own money to pay for it. Oh, well, that's what we save it for. So the idea here is this. From the kid's point of view, inheritance, what things matter most when it comes to the kid's point of view, Jeff?
Well, the best option that a kid has to inherit, and I'll just talk about IRAs, Roth IRAs, 401ks, they can put it into what's called a beneficiary distribution account. And in that beneficiary distribution account, they'll have 10 years to take the money out of that account. At the end of that 10 years, it's all got to be out, but at least you can space it out. So you don't have to take it all at once as a lump sum, and then your taxes go up and you lose a bunch of money by doing that. So you can spread it out for a traditional IRA. For a Roth IRA, you still have the 10 years, but by leaving it in there, you can let it grow and you kind of maximize that tax-free benefit. We love tax-free. We want as much of it as we can get.
Right. So from the kid's point of view, when it comes to IRAs, the first thing you got to think about is retirement plans, anything like that. You need to identify it. Is it a pre-tax plan or is it a Roth plan? Mm-hmm. So you understand what you're receiving before you do anything. Don't just sign paperwork provided to you by your parents' broker before you understand how it affects you.
Right. Make sure that you're doing the best thing for you.
Right. So from your point of view, you need a financial review. You need to talk about what money is coming in, how is it currently titled, what is the timing of it, do you have the right to make decisions, were you listed by name, or does this go through a trust, how is it going to work, so that you can create a path to receive this money in the most efficient and tax-wise and efficient way, right?
Right. So what's best for the kids is they're named as beneficiaries. In the first quarter, we talked a little bit about don't name your kids as primary beneficiaries along with your spouse. Now I'm going to say don't name a charity along with your kids as a beneficiary.
Why is that, Jeff?
Well, now you've limited your kids' choices when it comes to inheriting. They no longer have 10 years to take it out. They've got to take it as a lump sum right away. And if it's an IRA, traditional IRA, that means pay tax.
So the show's called Inheritance Family Matters. If you want it to go to your family, list your family. If you want it to go to charity, have a separate account, and that money goes to charity.
Right.
If I had to choose what goes to charity, it would be anything pre-taxed, such as a retirement account, IRA account, something that's never been taxed before, because giving it to charity means no one pays an income tax.
Right. Yeah.
We don't want to be giving the tax-free life insurance or the tax-free Roth to the charity unless that's the intent. I would say generally that would go to the family, tax-free to the family and taxable to a charity. That's a good combination.
Right. There are plans that we can put together that, you could eliminate taxes altogether, but most of the time you can at least reduce the amount of tax that's being paid and maximize what's actually getting to the people that you want to have inherit.
So what happens is that the kid's point of view, they're going to receive money. Now, from you, the person designing this account and putting a beneficiary down, you got to think about how do you want them to receive the money?
Right.
So imagine that you're at work and they throw a beneficiary form to you and you put your spouse's name. Then contingent, you're going to put down the kids. Now if they're like 14 or 15, you probably don't want to put the kids down. What are some options that parents of younger kids have when it comes to listing their beneficiaries?
Well, you can list the kids when they're younger than that. You could set up some sort of a trust for them.
In the will.
Right, in your will. Right. There are a couple of options. When they're young like that, if they were to inherit, in the situation you just mentioned, that means that your spouse died and you die, and now the kids still have a guardian. So they'd have someone that is the guardian for that money for them until they reach 18.
Yeah.
But then at 18, it's theirs and all bets are off.
Now, we've seen this happen where an uncle lists your child. We've seen the aunt list the child, things like that, where they didn't have any other family. So it wasn't like two people had to pass away to get to the kids. Now, if you really believe your kids should not receive money, let's say they're over 18, over 21, you just do not want them to receive money all at once. That's when you bring in trust and the idea of trust. If you have special needs children who need provision for that, there are ways to set up trust to design that. Yep. Now, from the point of view of the kids, if it's in a trust, then they're limited to the rules of the trust. They don't have all the freedom. But one of the things about meeting with a financial advisor from the parent's point of view is to design it the way they want. From the kid's point of view is to receive it the best way possible over time.
Right. And sometimes when you're setting it up, if you're setting up the trust like Brian's talking about, you might have a different idea of what's best for your kids than what they would necessarily have. But it does allow you to control so that they don't just blow it all at once. I had a client who set up in her will, a trust under the will for one of her kids so that she would receive a certain amount every year. Mm-hmm. And then once it gets down to a small enough amount, it just finishes paying out the lump sum to her. But she just didn't want that beneficiary, that child, to end up spending all the money in the first year and then not have anything after that.
Can you explain a word per stirps, STIRPES? What does that mean?
See, I always say stirpies, but
you can.
I'll go
can
with
say it any way you like.
So per stirps is Latin for in line of descent. So let's say that I name my child as a beneficiary, but he predeceases me. If I've said per stirps, then whatever his share is would go to his children, his line of descent.
Correct.
If I don't name that, let's say I've got two kids, then his share would come back over to my other child, and my grandkids would have been disinherited.
So the idea is when you fill out a beneficiary form, you want to check that box. Mm-hmm. There's usually a box on a beneficiary form where you can check this out, STIRPES. And Jeff says stirpies. That's probably the right way. I'm not going to argue with the way to say things.
Now that I said it out loud, I'm not so sure it's the right way.
Oh, yeah, I think it is. Let's go with it. But the idea is that design is where it would go by bloodline. The bloodline is basically parent to child, child to grandchild, a direct line.
Right.
I'm trying to allow that money to go down. And then if there's no one in that direct line, it bounces to the other siblings.
Right.
Because when kids are growing up, you just list both your kids or all three of your kids, and you don't worry about it. And then they start having their own kids, and you didn't change a beneficiary form, and before you know it, you disinherited the grandchildren.
Right. And, well, we'll get to this, but people don't want to do that.
Absolutely. Now, the idea of a kid's point of view, so you're receiving an inheritance, and you see this money coming in, you have to understand that it needs to be part of a financial plan. A lot of younger people receiving inheritance have never done a financial plan.
Right.
So they don't know what to do when money comes into their life like this. What are some ideas or suggestions that you have, Jeff?
Well, just think in terms of what did my parents do? They've obviously planned and left this money for me. They had enough for themselves, and this is left over. I need to plan so that I've got enough to take care of my retirement so I can win in retirement and have something left over if I can for my own kids.
Absolutely. It might be a moment in time where you can reset your financial situation. Not go out and buy all the dreams, but to reset your financial situation, to pay off the debt that you accumulated and get yourself in a position to be able to be okay in retirement years. Make this money matter. The show is called Inheritance Family Matters. Let's make the money matter for your lifetime that your family worked so hard to give it to you.
Right.
At Acres Financial Group, everything we do is going to be about you. Your retirement is as unique as your fingerprint. When you sit down with us, we start by taking a look at your financial fingerprint. We talk about you and where you are right now. What's your net worth? What is this inheritance that's coming in? How is it titled? How are you going to receive it? And then we talk about how this fits into your financial fingerprint. Perhaps you've been sold something, regardless of whether you need it or not. Not at Acres Financial Group. With us, your retirement money follows your financial fingerprint. It's a retirement plan based on your unique fingerprint that determines where your money goes. It's not about us, it's about you. Give us a call at 833-WIN-RETIRE and schedule an in-person or Zoom meeting with one of our team of advisors. That's 833-WIN-RETIRE, 833-946-7384, or visit our website at acresfinancialgroup.com. Scroll down to the bottom of our homepage and schedule a meeting right there. Call 833-WIN-RETIRE or go to acresfinancialgroup.com. People love their kids, but really love their grandchildren. In a moment, we'll talk about how to benefit those grandchildren.
You're listening to a pre-recorded show. Welcome back to Winning in Retirement. Call 833-WIN-RETIRE now to schedule a visit with Brian and his team and begin winning in retirement. Once again, here's Brian Akers.
Like the announcer says, welcome back to Winning in Retirement. I'm Brian Akers from Akers Financial Group. I'm here with Jeff Akers. We're both certified financial planner practitioners. And here on the radio show, I'm representing Akers Financial Group. You can go to our website at Akers, A-K-E-R-S, financialgroup.com and check information out right there. Also, you can hear some past shows and hear this show again if there's some topic, some part of the topic you'd like to hear again, or just give us a call to set up that free time to sit down and go over their exact situation.
Right.
Now, our show's been today about inheritance, family matters. And in this topic, it's called People Love Their Kids, but really love their grandchildren. How can you benefit those grandchildren? So, Jeff, are you feeling offended by this topic? I mean, you're grinning pretty big there.
Well, I don't have grandchildren yet, but I can attest to people that I meet with, and they'll talk nice about their kids, but they'll also move to Florida.
Yeah.
And then the grandkids are born, and suddenly they've moved back to Maryland.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they want those grandkids. They want to be around those grandkids.
Yeah, they want to spend every moment they can, or allowed to, right?
That's right.
So the idea is that if you, as the person that saved the money, want to give money to someone, then you need to have it put as beneficiary, or you give it while you're alive. But if you want to give it upon your death, it actually needs to be written down somewhere, or it's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah, when we leave money just to our kids thinking, oh, well, they'll leave some to my grandkids, well, maybe they will, maybe they won't.
Right.
It's their choice. So that might have been your intent, but you don't get to control that when you leave it to them.
Well, I was going to do a trick question to you.
Uh-oh.
What's your leading way of grandparents helping grandkids that you've done in your career?
The one that I've used the most is saving for education. So
ding, ding, you got it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea is you want to help with education, help them with a 529 plan that's properly designed, things like that.
Right. And there's been a change recently with 529s that I'll let grandparents know about, that if their grandchild chooses not to go to college, that money could still end up in a Roth IRA for their grandchild, so that they're actually saving for that grandchild's retirement if they don't use it for education.
Absolutely. So the idea is this. Now, while you're alive and you want to put money into a college savings plan, you get a tax deduction.
Yep.
For putting it away into a 529.
In Maryland.
Yeah.
If you use the right plan.
Pennsylvania, you can get it too. You actually get more off Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
New Jersey doesn't give it to you.
Yeah. And in Pennsylvania, it doesn't matter what plan you use. In Maryland, you got to use the Maryland plan.
Correct. Yeah, lots of rules. The idea is this. Having financial advice, financial coaching to help you make wise decisions is probably the best thing when it comes to making this work. Now, imagine that you have a situation in your family where the grandkid is your responsibility, and you really want to take care of that grandkid. You're going to have to set up the ability to manage a trust beyond you. And you most likely would not name your kid as the trustee because you're bypassing them. So you'd have to have a financial guardian and something set up for that kid over time. And we've used trust for that kind of situation.
Right.
I was just trying to think of all the situations where I've tried to benefit the grandchildren. A lot of it has to do with the family situation. So the family matters when it comes down to who can receive money, who should receive money, and who should not receive money. Understanding that can help you in designing your basically your full estate plan. And even as you're working on your retirement plan, you can set up how you're going to use that money over time.
Right. And that who should and who should not receive money, that's up to you, the one giving the money, the one saving for your own retirement and saving to give an inheritance to someone. So, that's up to you. You get to make those choices. And then our job is to put together the way to make your choices happen.
Yeah, we do something called an estate flow. An estate flow is we take all the information that you give us. We call that your financial fingerprint, where we bring it all together, the beneficiaries, the titling, how it's going to work. And then we show you what your current plan does and who gets the money and how much they get.
Yep.
And then you tell us, is that what you want?
Yeah, I had a situation where I put together it was a spreadsheet, but I showed here's this person and how much they're going to get, this one, how much they're going to get. And as we went down the list, they'd look at one and they're like, oh, that's too much. And they'd look at another one, oh, well, that's not really enough. And so we would make adjustments to get it where they wanted.
Yeah, well, there's that one. Then there's the other one where, oh, that person didn't talk to me this year, so let's cut them out, add this person in. And that's sort of a recycling of it every year, which is not the best thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry, you just reminded me of one, but sometimes second marriages and one spouse passes away and that spouse's kids don't ever talk to the surviving spouse and suddenly those kids are cut out.
Yeah.
So that's another way that a trust can be useful.
Right. So the idea here is this: plan inheritance because it matters. Money going to your family matters. Now, if you do not have a family, you don't have grandchildren to talk about where to give money to them or how to give money to them, what you got to do is consider, who do you want to receive that money? Mm-hmm. Is it a charity route or is it some other parts of your family? And so designing a plan is extremely important for everyone. Even if you say, oh, I don't have anybody to inherit my money, why should I worry about it? Well, I would say I'd worry about it more to make sure it goes to exactly where you want it to go.
Right. You've worked hard all your life to accumulate this wealth. And do you want it to just go to the government when you die?
Correct.
Because if you don't plan, most of it's going to end up with the government.
Yeah. One of the things we want to talk about is we're just doing some simple topics about the point of view of the grandchildren, the point of view of the giver, how's it all work out. But the idea is this: the larger the estates are, there are taxes that come into play. Yep. There's taxes at $5 million, taxes at around $12 million currently.
It's over 13.
In 2026, it gets reset, the estate tax law.
Down.
That's the tax upon death, which is federal, 45% tax upon death if you're at a higher level.
Right, if you got a high net worth. So that's half your money going to the federal government.
If it's designed in a way that you're not taking advantage of any ability to I guess not the word hide. What's the right word?
Well, to limit what's...
To limit it, yeah, through proper planning.
Right. Proper planning is not hiding.
Yeah. Well, it's just being prudent with the money. So the idea is this: inheritance, family matters. And in this point of view that we're covering is the grandchildren. So imagine that we have grandchildren receiving money. Okay. Grandchildren typically very young.
Okay.
And if they're receiving an IRA, they're going to have 10 years to take the money out. Now, what kind of things would you do if you met with a grandchild about the inheritance, Joe?
Well, I'm guessing if they're young enough, I'm meeting with the grandchild's parents. But I'd want to talk to them about education would be the first thing. We go back to what I said about the grandparents. Maybe that's money that we use to fund an education account for that child, that grandchild. If there was some kind of special needs involved, then we look at, okay, how do we take care of what they might need out of that? But it needs to be for the child's benefit. Anytime they inherit money, it's theirs. It needs to be for their benefit.
And if that grandchild's over 18, over 21, and they're working, the idea might be to have this money help them fund their Roth IRA, help them fund their long-term future, help them pay off student debt, and get them set up financially to be all right over time. There is special taxes if if wealthy grandparents want to skip their kids and go to the other generation, it's called a generation skipping tax.
Yeah, it exists.
It's that's a high limit. But there's ways to avoid that too. So in planning, we're trying to cover just some general ideas. So imagine that a person comes in to meet with you, Jeff, and they want to name their kids, and they want to have something for their grandkids. Now, if you put the grandkids and their kids all as equal beneficiaries, is that okay?
Well, in that situation, they've all got 10 years to take money out. So I'd probably say that's okay.
Right. Probably. Definitely. That's
probably.
A definite probably.
That's a definite probably. I mean, it's going to depend on some circumstances whether or not I want to do that. But I'd kind of rather have an account that's just, okay, this is the grandkids account, and I'll just name the grandkids on that one. And then have a different account that's the kids account, because then you can make sure which one's bigger and which one's smaller.
Yeah, sometimes it gets even trickier when it's not just money, not just a bank account or investment account, but it's real estate. And you might have one person in mind to receive it, and you have to try to balance the estate out. That's when things get very complex.
Yes, it does.
So what we tell people is like, well, what is the goal in the planning? And we do planning, estate planning, inheritance, legacy planning, as if someone might pass away tomorrow. How do you want this to go? Who would you want to receive it? Who do you want to have the choice on the property? And that's really how the talk begins. Right.
And in general, I like to make sure that the beneficiary has the most available choices. Sometimes the person leaving the money says that one doesn't have choices.
Yeah.
This is how they need to get it. And so we'll work to set that up through a trust or something.
Sure.
But we look at all the different ideas out there, different ways to get money to the place you want to get it.
Yep.
And then we pick the best ones.
Yeah, so when you get that call about inheritance and you're looking over things, trying to figure out what to do, the idea is the getting paperwork. That's hard to get sometimes. A lot of times if you're younger, the older people involved don't want to give you anything. But it is your choice. It is an account where you're going to be taking over your money. You have the right to that information.
Right, when that time comes. I had a situation where a child inherited money from her parents, and she's like, why am I inheriting money? They don't have any money. They're broke. Anytime we went out to lunch, I treated. Well, then she ended up inheriting a bunch of money from them. It's like, well, that's why you were treating, because they had all this for you.
Yeah, we had a family that when my mother and father passed away, we're going through the assets for them. They just couldn't believe how much their parents had saved over their lifetime, and they're just very grateful. And I think that's a great thing to receive and to be grateful in receiving. Because I think that's what really, if you had to say, what did that parent want? They wanted the money to matter. They want them to know that money was given out of love. It wasn't just, here's some leftovers. It was actually given out of love and grown out of love over a lifetime.
Right. They're doing it as a legacy.
Absolutely. All right, the show is called Inheritance Family Matters here on Winning in Retirement. Now, at Acres Financial Group, we really believe this, and that is this, that the best part of retirement is getting your time back, where you decide how to use it. Before retirement, your time is tied up with other commitments, mainly your job. A lot of that goes away in your retirement years. Your time is now consumed by things that you want to do. It's so easy to begin winning in retirement. Go to our website at acresfinancialgroup.com, scroll to the schedule meeting section, and let us know you'd like to schedule your free consultation with one of our team of advisors. That's acresfinancialgroup.com. That's AKERS financialgroup.com. Or give us a call at 833-WIN-RETIRE. That's 833-WIN-RETIRE. We'll give you a call on Monday to schedule your free in-person or Zoom meeting. Go to acresfinancialgroup.com or call us at 833-946-7384 to start planning for your retirement now. Inheritance tax still applies in Maryland to some members of the family, but not to others. We'll explain in a moment.
You're listening to a pre-recorded show. Welcome back to Winning in Retirement. Call 833-WIN-RETIRE now to schedule a visit with Brian and his team and begin winning in retirement. Once again, here's Brian Akers.
Welcome back for the fourth quarter of Winning in Retirement. I'm Brian Akers, president and founder of Acres Financial Group, and here with me today is Jeff Akers, vice president of Acres Financial Group. Been with us since the beginning of Acres Financial Group over 18 years ago, and Jeff has become just an amazing expert when it comes to many different items.
I didn't mention this earlier, but Brian's been at this for over 35 years. and has his CFP, all those good things. So he's got a lot of experience under his belt.
Thank you very much. I think, Jeff. I mean, I think you called me old without saying it. It was a nice way of saying I'm old.
I had a way to say you were old, but I left that one out.
Nice. And because we're talking about inheritance, family matters, we do have to talk about Jeff being my cousin. And so this quarter, the fourth quarter here, we're finishing up with the rest of the family. We're going to talk about inheritance for the rest of the family, not the spouse, not the kids, not the grandchildren. We're talking the uncle, the aunt, the cousins, those other
the nieces,
members
the
of
nephews.
The family. Yeah, we're bringing them all in.
Yep.
So Jeff is a cousin.
Yep.
If I passed away and gave Jeff money as an inheritance, would Jeff pay a Maryland tax?
I would pay an inheritance tax. Yes, I would.
Oh my! So if I gave you $100, how much tax do you have to pay in Maryland for inheritance?
I'd pay $10 in tax, and I'd get $90.
$90.
Yep, 10% inheritance tax in Maryland.
All right, so 10% inheritance tax is not when you're giving to a spouse, not when you give it to your kids or your brothers and sisters, not when you give it to grandchildren, but when you give it to your niece, your nephew. Yep. You give it to if you give it to an uncle or an aunt or another cousin, there is an inheritance tax in Maryland.
I sort of think of it like a T. You've got the up and down line, your parents, your grandparents, your children, your grandchildren. That's the up axis. And then the horizontal axis is brothers and sisters.
Right.
That T is not subject to inheritance tax. Anybody else is subject to inheritance tax in Maryland.
Is there an exception for this in Maryland?
Well, you said if you're going to give me money, I'm going to ask you to make it life insurance.
And why is that?
Because life insurance is not subject to inheritance tax.
Okay.
So I'd get the whole $100 on that one.
All right. That'd be nice.
Yes, it would. Tax free.
Now, better would be if I give it to you right now because I'm alive, you're alive. I can give what, $17,000 this year?
Yep.
And I can give it to you. There's no income tax, no nothing.
Yeah, no reporting. It's just a gift.
And one of the amazing things under the current law is they have high limits into the $25, $26 million range on the federal level that we can give like half of that through just unified credit, just by giving money now instead of waiting till someone passes away.
Right. So when you're thinking about leaving an inheritance, you don't have to wait to die to do it. You can start giving some while you're still living, depending on your situation, your plan.
Right. And that all is about trust and designing your plan, your estate plan. So today's show is called Inheritance, Family Matters. This fourth quarter is called Inheritance Tax, still applies in Maryland to some members of the family, but not to others. And so we're talking about that exact situation where it applies to uncles and aunts and cousins and nieces and nephews. Yep. If they receive an inheritance, you pay a tax. So if your uncle puts you down and you receive money, you're supposed to pay a tax on that.
That's right. And I've had that happen. And it doesn't matter. I mentioned the exception of life insurance, but other than that, there's no exception. It might be an IRA, it might be a Roth IRA, retirement account, or just stocks and bonds, whatever. All that subject to that 10% inheritance tax. Okay. With the IRA, you still get to use the 10 years to take it out and pay income tax on it, but the inheritance tax, that's going to be due right off the bat. Mm-hmm. When the person goes to set up the estate probate at the courthouse, it's one of the questions they ask. Are there any beneficiaries that fit in that category of not being a direct line of descent?
Right, absolutely. So what happens is this: you've been saving, growing your money throughout your lifetime, and you want to plan as if you may not live tomorrow. You want to do the wills, the trust, the estate plan, and you want to set up your beneficiary plan. And you're thinking about people to give it to, and you're trying to plan it all out. I think it's very, very important to think it through and to think about what assets should go to which people. Right. I like the idea of taxable going to charity if you're so inclined to give to charity. I don't want to give the tax-free money to charity. I want to give the taxable.
That's right. We want people to not pay tax, and charities already don't pay tax.
And then when it comes to the rest of your family and giving, if you have life insurance as part of your estate, then you probably want to slide any uncles, nieces, and cousins, things like that, into that category.
Right.
Even though the tax-free money is always good for whoever receives it, though.
Right. Yeah, the different assets and different titling, I'll call it, all has some different tax rules when it gets passed on. And so we need to go through each of those and then pick out, all right, this is best for that person and this other thing is best for that charity. And just go through and work out what's best going down the line.
Yeah. So have you seen mistakes done by people during their lifetime with the way they set up bank accounts or other accounts and things didn't really work out the way they thought it would?
Well, I'm sure there have been mistakes. I'm trying to rack my brain and think of one in particular. But
yeah, I have one. And
okay.
I had to basically ask you so I can answer it.
Oh, okay. So have you seen any mistakes?
Oh, yes,
Brian?
I have. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So what happens is this. People will do things such as, let's say the parents have a family farm.
Okay.
And that family farm is like been in the family for a long time. And then all of a sudden they want to have that farm go to the next generation. Now, some people will add the name of the child while they're alive.
Oh.
And other people will wait upon death to give the child or someone else.
Okay.
And so what happens is this idea of step up in basis that people have on inheritance, when you have stocks or real estate, whenever you pass away and there's a step up in basis on individual stocks, individual real estate, you actually can avoid the gain completely if you receive it upon death. But if someone just slaps your name on as joint owner, all of a sudden you get the original cost basis. You don't get a step up in basis. And that's been a big mistake we've seen, especially in designing real estate property, where people just, let me add you onto the house, that kind of thing.
Right.
Now, bank accounts, when they add people on, I usually recommend you add it as payable on death, not joint. When you add joint, basically you've done a gift of half the account.
Right.
You've given it half away, and you've given full access to that person and all their creditors and everybody else on your account.
Right. Yes.
So these mistakes that people make towards the end of their lives is they will just try to make things convenient by putting people's name on things without thinking it all the way through. And this could be adding a niece or nephew onto an account to take care of things for you without everything being designed properly. You just want to make sure you're doing the best you can for the whole family.
Right. So you can name a beneficiary to pretty much any account that's out there or any asset that's out there. And that way, if a step up comes into play, it exists for that asset.
Right.
Sometimes you'll see, one spouse passed away, they had a joint account, and so the surviving spouse is like, well, that was easy, so I'm just going to name my kid as the joint, so it'll be easy for them too. Well, sure, it's easy, but if they got into a car wreck or something, and now your money is gone because it had to pay off their debts somehow. So
a situation where the nephew was taking care of his aunt. Him and his sister were the only family members left, and so they were going to receive the aunt's money. They're taking care of her, and so I presented that with the use of the trust and the power of attorney, they had the right to take gifts while she was alive into their name so that they could actually set that money aside and avoid inheritance tax by doing it while they're alive.
Right. So, we were talking about inheritance tax. That's one of the ways to avoid that.
Sure. And just trying to find ways to make the money, the maximum amount of money head to your family. Because it really does matter when you're designing your inheritance to go to your family. It matters how much they receive. It matters how they use it. It matters the point of view. If you're the giver or if you're the receiver, you need to think these things through and have financial planning, have financial coaching alongside to make sure you're doing things the right way.
Right. And these things are complex and they change. I was going to say all the time. That might be a little exaggeration, but they change quite a bit. Sure. And so it's hard to keep up with.
Absolutely. I guess when you talk to people and they've had a death in the family, you always recommend not to rush in the first year, especially. Right. Try to take your time, especially if it's a spouse. But in other pieces of the family, when people receive money too quickly, they tend to blow it quickly. What we rather see is people do some planning about what that money can do for their plan now and for the rest of their life through proper design.
Right. I'll give an example. It's not something I've seen, but an example nonetheless. Someone could inherit a retirement account. They say, ooh, I'll just take a lump sum. They cash it in, they take that money, and now they go spend it on something. Well, next year they get their taxes done. They find out that they owed a bunch of money on that money they inherited that they took the distribution from,
Right.
and now they don't have the money to pay the tax on it.
Yeah.
So that's why planning is important.
Very true. One of the sort of strangest situations I had over the years was I had a husband and wife who were divorced, but the husband did not change the beneficiary, kept the ex-spouse on, and they were actually getting back together when the ex-husband passed away.
Oh, wow.
And so the sad part is they didn't remarry, and so the ability to send the money was not allowed.
So she did not get that preferential spousal treatment.
No, just not, if it was nowadays, it'd be she'd only have a 10-year rule.
Oh, wow.
So when I hear someone says, "Oh, we're not going to remarry," I say, "Well, if you get back together financially, the getting married does matter,
Right?
Because we never know when we might pass away, but the planning has to be done right prior."
Yeah, marriage does have benefits.
Absolutely. So inheritance, family matters. Jeff, it's been a lot of topics, a lot of information, but we couldn't dive real deep into anything. So just cover the basics.
Yeah.
And what is that basic concept you want people to understand from today's show?
I want you to understand that you need to plan. If you listen to this today and you're thinking, "Oh, well, I just got the call, and so now I'm going to do this, this, and this," don't do that. Give us a call. Let us sit down with you, go through your situation. You need to have a plan.
Absolutely, because inheritance, it matters, because your family matters, and how you do your inheritance, it will matter for your family. All right, this show's been brought to you by Acres Financial Group. We want you to win in your retirement by taking advantage of the opportunity to begin planning with us at Acres Financial Group. To schedule your free meeting with one of our team of advisors, go to our website at acresfinancialgroup.com. Scroll to the Schedule a Meeting section and let us know you'd like to schedule your free meeting. That's acresfinancialgroup.com. Or you can call us at 833-WIN-RETIRE. That's 833-WIN-RETIRE. We'll give you a call on Monday to schedule your free in-person or Zoom meeting with one of our team of advisors. Start planning for your retirement now. Go to acresfinancialgroup.com or call us at 833-946-7384. Thank you for listening. I'm Brian Akers from Akers Financial Group, and we want you to be winning in retirement.
You've been listening to Winning in Retirement with your host, Brian Akers of Akers Financial Group. Akers Financial Group offers securities through Archidio's Capital, an SIPC and FINRA member firm. Advisory services are provided through Archidio's Wealth. Akers Financial Group and Archidio's do not share any common ownership. Neither Archidio's nor Akers Financial Group provides tax or legal advice. Advice given on winning in retirement is general in nature, and one should seek further advice from their financial advisor, broker, attorney, and/or tax accountant before investing. Be sure to read each prospectus carefully to understand all the risks associated with each investment. Examples and scenarios shared are meant to be for illustrative purposes only. Past performance is not indicative of future results.